a su nombre. Alright, first into a verse. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Alright, so when I heard that I was supposed to preach, not gonna lie, I didn't really want to. Like, that's the flesh right there. I didn't want to, but a few days ago I started researching this stuff, and it turned out that it's like I really like this stuff. Like, when I started reading in the Bible, it was pretty appealing to me. I wanted to keep reading. Today I learned a lot. Like, it's crazy. So we're gonna get into it. I chose Peter because he had some struggles. Let me tell you. So, not my brother. Alright, so, Peter, even though he was like really close with Jesus, he was with Jesus for 3 years. He knew him pretty well. There was a couple things that, like, one time Jesus told Peter to go fishing, and like he needed some money to pay some taxes, and then he said, if you go fishing, there's going to be a fish that you're going to catch, and there's going to be some money in there. So he went fishing, and he got the money from the mouth, and then he could pay his taxes. Another time, Peter's mother-in-law was sick, and then Jesus came and then healed her. So, like, I don't know how you're gonna deny Jesus like that. So we're gonna get into this. I'm gonna do some reading. So Matthew chapter 26, verse 31. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will fall away on account of me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered. "This very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." So right there, Peter said that he's not going to disown God. So that's his heart right there. He's telling them that he's not going to disown God. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with the disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is impossible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to the disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." So right there, Jesus wanted them to pray, the disciples, but their bodies, they couldn't do it, the flesh. So they fell asleep. He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not impossible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." Okay, now we're going to skip down to 57. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, in the future, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, Prophesy to us, Christ, who hit you?" Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. Then he went out to the gateway, where another girl saw him, and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Surely you are one of them, for your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses of himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." Immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. So right there, Peter was scared because obviously, he didn't want to die because he knew Jesus was going to die pretty soon. And he was scared to know Jesus. His body was weak, his flesh, he didn't want to be out there, he didn't want to know Jesus. He didn't want to be out there and give it all to God. So, I'm gonna go to Ephesians 6:10, verses 10 and 11. "Finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of His power. Put on the whole armor of God, so that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil." So after the Pentecost, Peter transformed and he was a totally new person. After Jesus resurrected, he was the first person to start preaching. He totally transformed, being bold, and he wanted to be a witness for God. He totally transformed. At first he didn't know, he didn't want to be known to Jesus. He didn't want to know him or be around him because he was scared for his body. He didn't want to die or anything. But after, he was preaching openly, talking to everyone, and he wasn't scared for his body. So he had the armor of God on him.
Amen. Amen.